The weekly preview video for Beyond the Gates, airing March 16th to 20th, suggests that Leslie is being shut out. But who could be responsible for having the house project suddenly halted and pushed into what looks like an immediate long-term shutdown? Bad news crashed down on Leslie and Eva. Donnie is furious because the wedding has been sabotaged, and Carlton and Keel are once again at odds. The question now is which of the two men will come out on top. Leslie and Eva receive troubling news, while Donnie is outraged that someone is interfering with her daughter's wedding plans. At the same time, Carlton and Keel clash once more. Below is a summary of the Beyond the Gates promo for the week of March 16th to 20th, 2026. The major points to remember are these. Leslie and Eva receive disturbing news about the construction of the house. Donnie is furious because someone is interfering with Chelsea and Madison's wedding plans. Carlton and Keel are once again in conflict, this time right in front of Nicole. There is a very strong possibility that Vernon and Bill are quietly working together behind the scenes to retaliate against Leslie. If that is true, then this would not be the kind of revenge born from a simple burst of anger. It would be something colder, more calculated, disguised beneath a surface of legality, civility, and supposed concern for the community. What makes this possibility so dangerous is that no one would need to openly admit anything. All it would take is a construction suspension order issued at exactly the right moment, supported by reasons that sound perfectly reasonable, such as noise complaints, pollution concerns, or disruption to the peace of the neighborhood. That alone would be enough to suffocate Leslie and Eva without forcing anyone to reveal themselves as the true aggressor. Looking at the entire chain of events now unfolding, it is hard to believe that everything is merely a coincidence. Leslie has just shown signs of crossing the line with Ted. She has also either caused, or is suspected of causing, a disruption connected to Chelsea and Madison's wedding. And almost immediately afterward, the one thing helping her maintain some sense of control over her own life, the house being built for her, is suddenly blocked. Too many forces are tightening around one person at the same time for it to feel accidental. The most intense tension in this story does not actually begin with the construction halt. It begins with the atmosphere of instability spreading through every relationship. Eva and Isaiah may appear to be sharing a heated, playful, seductive moment, but the line about her having been starving all week exposes a far more unsettling layer underneath. That hunger could be flirtation, but it could also be a confession covered in sugar. A woman who cannot bring herself to say directly that she is struggling, exhausted, lacking security, or being drained by pressure will often speak in a way that is half joke and half truth, just to test how the other person reacts. Eva may not be testing Isaiah to see whether he still finds her attractive. She may be testing whether he can truly see how unstable her life feels. If he sees only the teasing and responds only with flirtation, then it means he is looking at her as a pleasant surface rather than recognizing the fatigue, insecurity, and deeper form of hunger that is wearing her down day by day. What is truly unsettling is that Isaiah may not be naive at all. He may have realized that Eva was hinting at financial strain, housing insecurity, or Leslie's control over her, yet deliberately steered the moment toward sex in order to avoid a much more uncomfortable conversation. If that is true, then his avoidance is not merely careless, it is a choice. A choice to keep things just beautiful enough that he does not have to get tangled in the chaos that could swallow him too. That is exactly why Eva becomes such an important link in this hidden war. She is not only Leslie's daughter or Isaiah's girlfriend. She is the intersection of a desire to be loved, a need to escape control, and the fear of facing the possibility that no one around her is truly on her side. If Leslie is using her as an emotional pawn to pressure Ted, if Ted is trying to protect her from some secret too dark to reveal, and if Isaiah is choosing to ignore the emergency signal she is unconsciously sending out, then Eva is the one trapped in the middle of snares built by other people. Her hunger, then, is not merely physical or material. It is a hunger to be truly seen, to be protected without being used, to be removed from the bargains and games of older, more powerful people. But the tragedy of Fairmont Crest has always been that the most vulnerable people are the ones most often turned into weapons. The Ted and Leslie storyline sharpens that truth even further. Ted losing his temper enough to shout about boundaries suggests that Leslie has touched something he no longer has the strength to keep hidden. It could be any notional boundary, but more likely it is a legal or moral one. Because a man with a history like his with Leslie would not react that violently simply because she appeared again or pushed him one more time. That kind of reaction usually comes when the other person threatens to destroy a very carefully constructed defense system. Ted may be trying to protect himself, but if it were only about protecting his reputation, his anger would carry more avoidance than panic. At the same time, the way the story places Leslie so close to Eva strongly suggests that Ted is trying to stop Leslie from dragging Eva into an old secret, a truth that could destroy more than one relationship. Perhaps Leslie knows something about Ted that, if revealed, would not only burn through what remains of his life but also force Eva to question the very roots of her own identity. Leslie understands the power of that information. A woman like her does not survive through weakness. She survives through leverage, through the ability to make other people tremble even when they believe they escaped her long ago. That is why it makes perfect sense that Leslie still has the power to shake Ted so deeply. Ordinary ex-lovers carry memories. Leslie carries evidence, resentment, the feeling that something meant to be hers was stolen from her, and, most importantly, the willingness to destroy anyone who dares treat her like a mistake from the past. For a character like Leslie, every setback is not an ending but a reason to escalate. She does not need to win by being loved again. She only needs to prove that the people who cast her aside will never be able to live in peace. If she really has interfered in Chelsea and Madison's wedding, then that act is not simply childish spite. It is a declaration of power. It says that Leslie can still reach into other people's happiness and turn their celebration into chaos at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right place, with exactly the right degree of cruelty. That is what gives so much weight to the suspicion that Vernon and Bill may be retaliating against her. Vernon is not the kind of man who would get his hands dirty directly if there is a cleaner alternative. He understands his position, his image, and the price of letting his name become attached to personal revenge. But that does not mean he would refrain from striking back. In fact, people like Vernon often strike more effectively because they turn punishment into something that looks like a legitimate process. If Leslie sabotaged Chelsea and Madison's wedding, Vernon would not need to scream or declare war publicly. He would only need to decide that Leslie has become a threat to his family, his reputation, and the fragile stability he is trying to preserve, and then choose someone else to act on his behalf. Bill would be the perfect instrument for that. Bill has the ability to legitimize an attack through documents, regulations, reports, and even arguments about environmental standards or residents' rights. Everything would sound proper and respectable, while the real motive beneath it could be a punishment too carefully designed to be called by its true name. The key question is not whether Vernon has enough power to deal with Leslie himself. It is why he would need Bill. The most reasonable answer is that Vernon wants to avoid appearing as the person directly suffocating Leslie. He needs a buffer. Bill can step in under the justification of protecting order, reducing noise pollution, or enforcing zoning and compliance. But what makes it suspicious is the timing. If the construction of the house for Leslie and Eva is halted immediately after tensions surrounding the wedding and other secrets begin to explode, then this may be less a neutral decision than a warning shot. There is no need to destroy Leslie completely right away. All that is necessary is to make her feel that the ground beneath her feet is no longer stable. Cut off the money, block the progress, delay the shelter, and she will begin to react. A Leslie backed into a corner is always more dangerous, but also more likely to make mistakes. Vernon and Bill may understand that. They may not just want to hurt her. They may want to force her to reveal her true face, so that when she strikes back too recklessly, they will have the excuse they need to crush her with even greater force. But this is exactly where Bill becomes a far more complicated figure. If Bill is siding with Vernon out of principle, then perhaps some moral limit still exists in what he is doing. But if he is doing it because he owes Vernon something, or because he expects some political, personal, or legal advantage in return, then this move becomes far dirtier. Bill is too smart to do anything that offers him no benefit. If he has chosen to get involved, then he likely sees Leslie as an opportunity to prove himself while also settling old scores. Perhaps he, too, has grown tired of the way Leslie keeps tearing through the social and emotional networks of Fairmont Crest. Or perhaps he understands that if she is not stopped now, the next secret she exposes could reach him as well. When a man like Bill acts not out of emotion, but calculation, the consequences are usually far more brutal. He will not just want Leslie silent today. He will want to create a situation in which every word she speaks from now on can be dismissed as the desperate rambling of someone unstable, hysterical, or cornered. In that context, Leslie's words at the Orphegean house sound exactly like the reaction of someone who has already smelled the beginning of the hunt. She is no longer speaking like a mother helplessly devastated by bad news. She is speaking like a soldier who knows the opening shot has just been fired at her. She may lash out at Eva because she fears Eva is too fragile, too likely to reveal her confusion and panic. But a far more compelling possibility is that Leslie is really warning the person who set the suspension in motion. Leslie is not the type to believe her life is collapsing simply because of policy. She will sense the hand behind it. And once she becomes convinced that Vernon and Bill are working together to block her last path to survival, she is almost certain to retaliate, not by begging, but by digging deeper into the secrets that could destroy them. That is also what turns Chelsea and Madison's wedding into a battlefield rather than a private event. If Leslie truly did sabotage the wedding plans, then that act may serve two purposes at once. One is to humiliate Chelsea and shatter a happy moment for the Dupree family. The other is to target Madison, especially if Leslie knows or suspects that Madison is hiding something. The fact that Chelsea and Cott cannot believe who the saboteur might be suggests that the culprit is probably not an outsider. To create real shock, it would have to be someone familiar, someone trusted, or at least someone close enough that no one would imagine they would go this far. If Donnie is the one delivering the news, then she may not have simply stumbled upon the truth. She may have been forced into carrying the bomb because the truth is too explosive, or because someone wants to use her voice to trigger chaos without stepping into the light themselves. That only reinforces the idea that Fairmont Crest is being run by anonymous wars, where everyone uses someone else as a messenger, a shield, or a sacrificial pawn. Nicole, Carlton, and Keel open up another face of the same problem: control. Nicole insists that she is a grown woman not only because she resents the two men circling around her and competing for influence, but because she recognizes that both of them are talking about her as if she were an empty space to be managed. Carlton may appear to respect Nicole's boundaries, but he may simply be choosing a smarter strategy to gain the moral advantage over Keel. Keel, meanwhile, reveals something far more troubling when he suggests that he will leave Nicole alone when he feels comfortable doing so. In that moment, he unintentionally exposes the ugliest part of the power dynamic. He does not treat Nicole's needs as her own right, but as something that must pass through his personal judgment first. That kind of structure may seem small inside a heated argument, but it has the same essence as every other manipulation currently at work in the show. The stronger person always believes they have the right to decide when the other gets freedom, peace, a voice, or silence. Nicole is angry because she can clearly feel herself being turned into a prize, a contested territory between two male egos, while she is the one who has to carry the emotional consequences of it all. When all these storylines are placed together, the larger picture becomes unmistakable. These are no longer separate conflicts. This is a web of power struggles in which every romantic argument is tied to advantage, every legal action can become a weapon, and every person's happiness is viewed by someone else as a bargaining chip. That is why the possibility that Vernon and Bill are retaliating against Leslie over Chelsea and Madison's wedding is not only reasonable, but deeply believable. What is even more frightening, however, is that they may not be retaliating over the wedding alone. The wedding sabotage may simply be the final straw, the most convenient excuse to legitimize a campaign that had already been quietly prepared in advance. Leslie may have crossed too many boundaries, learned too many secrets, and created too much instability, leading Vernon to conclude that she is no longer just an annoyance but a real threat whose path to survival must be cut off piece by piece. Bill, with his talent for turning the will of the powerful into actions that appear impartial, may be the perfect executioner for that mission. If the story continues down this path, the most compelling part will not be whether Leslie loses, but how she fights back once she realizes she is being hunted with rules and paperwork instead of fists. A Leslie who loses her home, her control, and her position of power, yet still holds Ted's secrets, Eva's vulnerability, and perhaps even enough dirt on Vernon or Bill, will not go down quietly. She will choose destruction. She will choose to pull others down with her. She will choose to make sure that the people trying to suffocate her have no easy way back either. And that is when every wedding, every romance, every polished image of maturity and decency will be stripped away. Because in Fairmont Crest, when a woman like Leslie is driven into a corner, what emerges is no longer pain. It is fury, the kind of fury that can burn through even the families who believed they were standing in the safest place of all.